We're live! A special afternoon edition of Morningwood. Really, sorry that we couldn't do this in the morning. It's my first day back at work, and had a lot of craziness.
Yeah, it'll be a little weird to schedule figuring it all out, but at least, we always repost it. I guess we should do a better job of trying to give a heads up when this is going to start to air.
Yeah, so, we'll put that out every day at some point, earlier than just showing up live today. But, we wanted to at least go live, even if we couldn't do it in the morning, because last night's Raptors-Celtics game was, one of the best games of the year, one of the best games of the last couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the best way I think I could describe it is kind of like the Raptors are this boxer that just keeps getting beat up and just won't go down. They just keep staying up. That we're in the 10th round, and it's like, how is this guy still up? And that's what it feels like with the Raptors.
It's crazy, man. I mean, they looked dead in the water in the first half. I thought that the Celtics were just going to run away with the game. Jaylen Brown was a man on a mission. He seemed like he wanted to end it early. Tatum, he struggled a little bit in the first half, but in the second half, and we've mentioned it, time after time in this series. I mean, the Toronto guards they didn't want to die, and
they have to keep hitting tough shots. They just it's not ideal, but there's just no other option than having to hit these tough shots consistently.
It's crazy. And, once again, Siakam absolutely was a disaster. He hit a big shot in, the second overtime, first overtime, one of the overtimes. He had hit one big shot in that little mid-range area off a face-up. But other than that, he was just a disaster. He had like a couple of monumentally bad possessions late in the fourth quarter. And, it was back on the shoulder of Lowry and Van Vliet, but they got a little bit of help. Norman Powell is not the guy that I would expect that you draw a play up to ISO at the top of the key, just spread out. I got this. He's not the I got this guy. At least I don't expect that typically. But to play devil's advocate, I don't think Brad Stevens in the Celtics huddle was like, guys, defensively, we got to watch out for this ISO at the top of the key for Norman Powell. So they did catch them off guard a little bit, I think.
Well, Norman Powell shot the double the amount of free throws of anybody else on the Raptors. So that means, based off all our science, he's a superstar.
We have been pounding the free throw disparity.
Superstar, Norman Powell.
Look, I actually was thinking yesterday, Norman Powell is like what Donovan Mitchell would be if he didn't hit the next level. Like, he's like poor man's Donovan Mitchell almost.
Rich man Eric Bledsoe.
You're not far off. My guy Dolo, do you guys ever talk about the Pistons?
You talked about Derrick Rose yesterday.
We did talk about Derrick Rose yesterday. Honestly, we've talked about the Pistons probably more often than I'd have expected thus far in the podcast. We're not talking about the Pistons a lot right now because they're not in the playoffs.
Once we get to the offseason and stuff, I think that's where, we'll start breaking down maybe what some teams should do and everything like that. But, we're talking daily about what's going on with the current events, and the Pistons are not a current event.
Yeah. As much as you want to turn this into a Derrick Rose show? I'll do it. Double dare me. I'll tell you about the most saddening sports moment of my life, sitting at a bar in Ohio. I'll do it.
You could be his co-host.
But yeah, other teams that are no longer or never made it to the bubble is not going to be, our main topic of conversation, at least until we get to the offseason draft, free agency, stuff like that. At least give me who you think they're taking. I think they're probably looking to take Killian Hayes at this point. But that's a little bit of sourced information / conjecture. But I would watch my Killian Hayes breakdown if you were a Pistons fan. So back to the Boston game. The shot making was fucking unbelievable.
It is. And it looks like in the last Avengers when Captain America is facing off against Captain America, and it's like, I can do this all day. I know you can.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe shot after shot. OG, Norman Powell, Tatum. I mean, just an insane amount. I mean, Lowry with one of the bigger shots of the game. Just shot after shot. I can't express how fun the game was. I was watching the game on the couch with my fiance, and I told her this is one of the best games that I've watched in a while. She did not turn her head to watch the game with me at that point. She missed out.
She doesn't like comedy, so her judgments are irrelevant.
She does not like comedy. It's one of the weirder things about her. She likes How I Met Your Mother, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so here's my thing with Fred VanVleet. I feel like at this point the Raptors absolutely have to re-sign him because Lowry is on the latter stages of his career. Siakam is definitely proving that not only is he not like a number 2 option, but he's probably he's struggling as a number 3 option. If they don't re-sign Fred VanVleet, it feels a lot like they're going to Malcolm Brogdon in this situation.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it might crush them 1 year for tax, but once everybody comes off, Ibaka's contract eventually will come off. And is Gasol expiring this year?
I think he is.
I believe he is too. So, that part of that stuff can, that can be the money that would try to offset this, because if they let VanVleet go, how do they get better? They just don't have any cap space to do it. They can only sign. Yeah, they're better off re-signing him. If they got to trade somebody for an asset, if they got to trade VanVleet for an asset, you're better going that route.
Exactly. Or
I think I'm in with that with you. I think I agree. They have to re-sign him.
So I think VanVleet's probably going to be what? I mean, this is not a big free agent class. He's probably going to be the top guy, second guy, as far as free agents go. I mean, I guess unless you believe that Anthony Davis is going to leave. I mean, obviously the money situation is up in the air. The NBA just pushed back the draft another month. One of the reasons being they want to figure out what the CBA salary cap situation is going to be going forward. But I mean, what do we think? At $20 million?
I think it's $20 million. And unfortunately, I still think I love VanVleet, but I still think he's a situational player. He doesn't make sense in every team.
He doesn't. And I think that the Raptors are probably looking at
like Draymond. It's like Draymond. Like if if you're not the Warriors or a team set up like that, you can't pay Draymond. It's like if Draymond, let's say the Knicks gave $20 million a year to Draymond, wow, would that be bad?
No, you have to be a contending team that he could push over the edge. He's a push over the edge guy. VanVleet's similar. He's not a guy that you're building your entire offense around, but he is a guy that is going to possibly push you up a tier, could win you a playoff game, could win you a series on one of his hot streaks. But with that said, he's also a guy, he's like the perfect Tom Thibodeau point guard. I mean, I definitely think the Knicks are going to go after him. If DJ Augustine could look like he's a above average point guard with Thibodeau, I mean, Fred VanVleet is like Tibbs' dream.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be completely opposed to it. I still think he's, I don't like him by himself without having a solid guard next to him. But I guess let's start with the first piece.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to mention that Jason Tatum, while he struggled shooting the ball throughout the game, his playmaking, he's making the jump, and that's his next level of how do I become a superstar? Because this year it was mainly how do I get to the free throw line a lot? Because when he was struggling in his year 2, a lot of it was due to he was taking inefficient shots and he wasn't getting to the line. So what does he do? He learns how to get to the free throw line. All great scorers, all those guys do it. He made that leap. Now, with the time off, it almost feels like he got a second off season, and now he's looking more and more comfortable as a creator. And that's a scary thought, because now Tatum is actually in that, like, hey, could this, like, I never bought necessarily into Jason Tatum could be a top 5 guy, but if he's a guy that you can actually rely on to create offense for other people outside of just himself, now it's scary. Now he could be
he's going to be a top 5 guy.
Yeah,
for sure. I agree, and it sucks. but the Celtics knocked that out of the park. He looks great. That they have such a good core. It's such a good team that they have built and everything like that together. Yeah, kudos to the series. Really enjoying it. I can't wait for Game 7. I don't really care who wins. I just enjoy watching the games.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry looks like he's probably still asleep with how exhausted he looked at the end of the game.
Kyle Lowry got a lot of shit for a long time for not showing up in the playoffs, and he's done nothing but show up.
Yeah, I fucking love that guy. I've loved him since Villanova.
Thank God the Knicks didn't trade Shumpert for him.
Yeah, that would have been a really bad move for the Knicks franchise if they got a guy like Lowry. You would have hated to have that kind of teammate chemistry. You did get Bargnani, and at least you had to give up all those draft picks for him. Yeah. The Clippers Nuggets, by the time whatever the feed I was watching, by the time the double overtime game was over, the Clippers were up by like 15.
Yeah, I mean the Nuggets just they can't score. It's a combination of they have poor offense and the Clippers have great defense. It's just it's a bad matchup for the Nuggets. They're guys that they were relying on for the bubble in the last few series. They just can't score, and you have two great defenders at least, or three great defenders at least on the Clippers. It's really rough for those guys to put up points. Jokic's responsibility is not putting up 45, 50 points. That's not what he does.
No.
Nuggets just can't score.
They can't score. Again, part of it goes back to the free throws. Jamal Murray, 4 of 4, 6 of 15 for 18 points. He, created some offense for his teammates and whatnot. Where are you at on Dame going off on
Michael Porter Jr.? Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a smart move I think it's great for Dame because Michael Porter Jr. is going to take that, not personally, hopefully, but take it as, the veteran's trying to tell me something here.
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. is a young guy. I mean, he's going to say stupid shit. This is why we make them sign media deals. We make them sign media deals so they can get reactions on Twitter. And that's what it is. So they can say stupid shit on in front of a microphone so we can sit there and bullshit about it. Realistically, Michael Porter Jr. can't be questioning the coach or any like that. But I love Dame coming out and saying something. His own teammates should hopefully are doing the same.
Yeah, and here my problem with what Michael Porter Jr. said, and this is, I think, Dame's point. He's not like writing an essay on it. He's just writing literal tweets about it. Like, while what Michael Porter Jr. said might have had some kind of truth to it, not necessarily even that you have to move the ball, because I think basically everybody on the Nuggets is unselfish. He's saying he just needs more shots. Maybe he does because he's one of, 3 guys on the team you can actually rely on for offense. But airing it out in the media, like you said, young person saying stupid shit is not the way to go about it.
That's how you do it.
The way to go about it is to bring it to your coach, man to man, discuss it in a practice, keep it amongst yourselves and your team. Airing it out in the media, obviously this is a lesson learned from him. And, not only is he a rookie, technically, he's a guy who he had so much hype. He was like the unheralded number 1 pick going into his college season, which was the Luka season.
Right.
And he only played 2 games, and he got pretty much blacklisted because of because of his back. So he's a guy who was on the Ball Is Life mixtapes. He was on the Slam magazine. He was the one of the next guys. He was KDS. So he has that in him. He grew up almost with that feeling of entitlement almost. Due to the fact that, he's a kid who grew up on the internet getting all this internet hype. And now he comes to a team, he had to sit out a year. Now he's, finally playing. He's showing out a little bit. He's seeing himself dunking on Montrezl Harrell on House of Highlights. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I can get mine. And hopefully what Dame did, because I think it means a lot from somebody like Dame, who's done everything the right way in his career. Like Dame, I feel like dude's got to have like a 95% approval rating.
Probably.
So I'm glad that Dame was the one to speak up on him.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it sucks for, Michael Porter Jr. is obviously frustrated. He's not enjoying getting crushed in the playoffs and probably feels that he can help contribute to his team with more opportunity, but this is not how you handle it. No. And Michael Porter Jr., you're a beast, man. you don't need to stoop to this level to do this. You got drafted into a great situation because of this, because of your situation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You got to, take advantage of what you got. Let's ask, 19-year-old or 20-year-old Zach LaVine where he'd rather be, in the Nuggets in this situation or on the Timberwolves.
Right. Yeah, 100%. As far as what the Nuggets need to do, they probably need to get Michael Porter Jr. going a little bit more if they can. Jamal Murray's got to get to the line, and they just got to defend better. Their rotations, some of their rotations, and Michael Porter Jr., his rotations are rough, recovering to the rim, but he's a rookie, so it's hard to rely on your rookie to anchor your defense. Jokic, it's a hard matchup because so many of the Clippers are so athletic. I mean, you put that Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell pick and roll. How do the Nuggets guard it?
I just don't think the Nuggets have, the arsenal to compete with the Clippers. The way it's like a chess match, but you got your queen knocked out right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like you're literally now just trying to play uphill the entire rest of the way, and I just don't see the Nuggets and how they could do that.
No, it's
they're trying. I mean, I think they're doing what the right way to do it is. They got to funnel everything through Jokic, which they are doing.
They are.
Again, it's still just not enough. There's just not enough out there for that.
And
the Clippers are great. They're great at defense.
They are.
It's a compliment to the Clippers too.
I mean, if this offseason is showing anything for the Nuggets, because I don't think anybody actually had a realistic expectation that the Nuggets were going to win a title this year. If anything, it should show them, hey, we are at least one piece away. We've seen Jamal Murray win us a playoff series. We've seen him put us on our back, and we know Jokic is Jokic. We know he's going to be a top 10 guy, possibly, arguably the best center in the league. How do we use these amazing assets that we've drafted, and how do we figure out how to get that third guy?
For sure. And I think, they're gonna, with Millsap coming off, they're gonna have some good salary too.
Yeah. So, that's the Nuggets going forward. Only one game tonight, which
Lakers Rockets,
which is weird, but it's at 7:00, and I love that. That means
God.
it means that we don't have to go to sleep at 12:00 at night.
Do you want to respond to your Michael Porter Jr. trade?
Let's see. Could MPJ be that one piece, or do you trade him and try to get a star?
So so this is it. If you can get Bradley Beal, you trade him. Trade him. If you can get Bradley Beal, do it, because they need it so goddamn bad. So it really depends on the piece. But I think, if there's a time where Washington is willing to trade Brad Beal and you can create a deal with some first and salary filler, I guess I would have to see what that may be. And Michael Porter Jr., I think that makes sense for both sides. I think Denver has to go all in on that, and so does Washington. They got to budge on it. And we'll see how upset Michael Porter Jr. is playing next to $40 million John Wall.
I agree. I mean, obviously Beal is a no-brainer. I mean, I would trade Jamal Murray for Bradley Beal. So, I mean, if you're asking me, obviously the goal is to add.
Right. So how do they? This is going to be a horrible question because I know who I'm asking. But if Zach LaVine was on that team, it also is a different situation. Zach LaVine is an offense.
Yeah, I mean, Zach LaVine is legitimate shot maker.
So I think if you can trade Murray or Michael Porter Jr. some picks for Zach LaVine, you got to do it. I
mean, honestly, Denver. If you're looking at what team you would want Zach LaVine on, at least offensively, I mean, it's Denver.
Oh, 100%. I think that fit, I think, is beautiful right there. I'm not buying a Zach LaVine jersey anytime soon, and I love that fit.
I mean, you're taking the ball out of his hands. You're running him off screens. If he needs the ball in his hands, he could still create a shot over anybody. And you're letting Jokic do all the work that the Bulls want Zach LaVine to do, which is get everybody else involved. So that would be great. But granted, I don't know. I mean, it's weird because Denver and Chicago now have links because we just hired one of their management guys who obviously felt confident enough in drafting Michael Porter Jr. to take him in the draft with a lottery pick. So maybe they don't think his back is as bad as it otherwise was, according to teams like the Clippers. But Yeah, that would be an interesting trade, and I think
Michael Porter Jr. is going to fit the same timeline with LaMelo. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. Oh God, I couldn't even imagine the LeVar on this side and Michael Porter Jr.'s media on this side. Just the possible disaster that could be.
No, I'm the star.
We'd be really, really tall though. Lakers Rockets. Do you think the Rockets have a shot to tie up the series tonight?
I definitely think the Rockets have a shot to tie up the series tonight. If Rondo is going to do, you're basically betting on Rondo not doing the same thing as last time because Rockets should have won the fucking game last time. Rondo just went off. So, the Rockets got blown out in the second half last game. I just can't see Rondo doing it again. So it's the same idea. If AD is consistently doing exactly what he's doing, is just being fucking way taller than everyone, there's just nobody in the Rockets who can guard him or even get in the way. Do we have a diagnosis on Covington?
I don't know. Let's check. I think that the Rockets he's questionable as of right now.
That's good.
As of 19 hours ago, he was questionable, and I don't have an update beyond that. But I think the Rockets really need to pack the paint, and you need to live and die with Rondo.
Losing Daniel House, though, sucks for the Rockets.
It does, and I'm a bit confused about why he needs to be suspended. Is the COVID tester, I'm assuming, is staying on site because I guess he was kicking game to one of the COVID testers and invited her to the room. And if she was staying on site, is it that big a deal that they were in the room?
Shoot.
I'm assuming she was negative. Look, the Rockets' whole thing is shooting. You can't be mad when they're shooting off the court too. I would let Caldwell Pope beat me. I would let Caruso beat me. I'd let Rondo. I'd let Kuzma, Quinn Cook, J.R. Smith, Dion Waiters, whoever else. I would pack the paint so LeBron, has a much harder time getting to the hoop.
Yeah, I'm going to be pack the paint. I'm going to be interested in see what D'Antoni does with his lineup. Is he going down to play fucking 6 guys? I have no idea what he's doing with his lineup. If he is going to play 7 guys or 8 guys, who are those guys going to be? And this game is these games so far have been won off the benches. So I'm curious to see what bench guy in either team is going to step up and be the new star of this game.
Yeah, especially because who do you even want to come off the bench for the Rockets if Covington is out? Then you're stuck with are you going to keep Jeff Green on the bench? Or are you going to put him in the Covington role?
You got to put him in the Covington role and hope it's a Jeff Green day.
Then you're relying on Austin Rivers and Macklemore off the bench to get going. It's going to be tough.
There's no other option.
That's the uphill battle for the Rockets.
Yeah, I just think Austin Rivers sucks. I don't like Austin Rivers' game, but I wouldn't mind a little more on Macklemore and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm excited for that. There's only one game today, and it's Lakers -5. So who you taking, Lakers -5 or Rockets +5?
I'm taking the points with Rockets +5.
I will do that as well. And let's hope that James Harden has one of those 45-point games if we want to be right. And, we'll be back tomorrow at some point.
Cool.
And I think that's it, unless you got any final thoughts.
That's all I got. Football starts tonight. I got the 2 TV set up now. I got football and basketball tonight. Let's go.
Larry told me that football starts tonight yesterday, that there's no preseason. I've been wrapped up in basketball. I made my first FanDuel lineup of the season. We're going to see how it goes, having done absolutely zero research for football because I didn't know it was starting this week.
It was a rough play that you took Eli and Marcus Colston, but we'll see how they do this week.
the Hofstra guys are my guys.
Sure.
Forever. All right. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.